You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Athan Hristodulu.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Greeks Gridiron. I am Athan Hristodulu. I am recording this, I believe, a week before this will actually go up, so it is a pre-recorded episode as I am away at the moment. Today, we are discussing the top 5 defenses that I have picked out going into this 2021 NFL season. I'm actually watching this as the Hall of Fame game is going on right now to my right. So, without further ado, if you like what you're watching, like, comment, share, sub, all that good stuff. Help support the channel. So we're going from 5 to 1 for this list. And this is totally debatable. This is my personal opinion, but I'd love to see what you guys think in the comment section down below. Please let me know where I got things right and wrong on this list. Coming in at number 5 and coming in pretty hot here, might be a little bit of a surprise on the list, but I have them pinned as a top defense for this year. Number 5, we are looking at none other than the New England Patriots. Now, why do I have the Patriots on this list, someone might ask? Well, just a couple of years ago, this defense was very, very good. Then last year, sit-outs between, Patrick Chung, Dante Hightower, just to name a couple of big players there. Stephon Gilmore got hurt. He did not play the entire season as well. There was just a lot of people hurt on the defense. Then we flipped the script. Now we're going into this next season. Gilmore's back. They got Hightower. Chung's gone, but Duggar came on strong for them at safety, and I believe that he will be a solid defensive back in that defense, I guess. And on top of that, he's playing alongside Devin McCourty. So, where could you really go wrong, and who better to learn from than one of the most consistent safeties in the game? Now, on top of that, you also have free agent signings like Kyle Van Noy, who's returning to the team from the Dolphins after, a year or two hiatus away from there. Then on top of that, you look at a free agent signing like Matthew Judon. This defense is locked and reloaded and ready to go. And in my opinion, with, the emerging J.C. Jackson from last year and Jonathan Jones, there's just so much to like about this defense between the pressure that they can bring, the coverage that they'll be able to lock down receivers in. Their numbers 2 and 3 corners are honestly better than some 1 and 2 wide receivers around the league right now. And that's kind of scary considering how this whole thing is going to work out for New England. If their offense is even half as good as some of the reports coming out of Patriots camp is, this is going to be a problem because you're going to have a defense that's not on the field as much as they were last year. If the offense is humming a little bit better, even just a slightly better offense would be massive. This team went 7-9 last year, and they were much worse than a 7-9 record. But coming in now at number 4, we'll move on to the next pick. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers in at number 4. Now, this is a defense. They allowed only 4,893 passing yards total altogether, 35 total touchdowns. They had 27 forced turnovers last year, 56 sacks, a monstrous 56 sacks. The problem with them was penalties, though. 103, tied for 27th in the league. That's a really high number. Now, if they can cut down on the penalties, they did lose a lot of people to injury towards the late half of the season, and you can argue next man up, whatever you want to say. If you're going to lose starters and you're going to lose them in multiples, it does not matter how good your depth chart is. It's just not going to stand up. A good example would be like the offensive line for the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. No matter how good that team was in depth or whatever, next man up, if you're losing enough players in the starting position on any specific group on the field, the defensive backfield, linebacking core, defensive line, offensive line, wide receiving core, whatever it may be, it's going to hurt the team at some point. Now, if the injury bug is gone, they can return to that number 3 defense that they were ranked last year. And on top of that, draftees like Buddy Johnson and Quincy Roche even make somewhat of a massive jump in their first year, and they're significant playmakers or even just really productive on this defense. That's it's like a mix of old and young, but there are some older players that are going to be getting ready to move on out soon. They're poised to be the number 3 defense again. Honestly, they could end up being number 4. They could end up being higher on this list. I have no reason to believe that this defense is really taking that much of a step back. They did lose Hilton in the secondary, which might hurt them, but they still got Minka Fitzpatrick, TJ Watt. They got a lot of really good players on that defense, and I firmly believe that they're going to be right back in the top 5 defensive conversation. So definitely look for them on there. Now, coming in at number 3, this was the defense that really started to show up late and completely dominated through the playoffs. And honestly, I almost put them higher on the list, but The reason I didn't is because the two above them, in my opinion, are the absolute 1 and 2 best defenses in the league. I'm going to stick here at number 3, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, their numbers are a little bit higher than some of the other teams on this list. They are actually the second highest on the list. But again, this defense really started to come together towards the back half of the season and as they went into the playoffs. And, who's to say if the other teams had games to play, their numbers might look as good? That's irrelevant to the conversation. The point is when times got tough and they were playing the best teams in the league that made the playoffs, they showed up and showed out. And I mean, they completely ransacked the number 1 offense in the league last year during that Super Bowl. I mean, and they shut down the Green Bay Packers. Not shut them down, but held them enough that they were able to, squeak out a 26 victory, whatever the number was. But at the end of the day, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers has the entire unit returning. This is going to be a constant theme for the Buccaneers in every conversation. The whole unit's returning. They brought every single starter back. First time it's ever happened. Then on top of that, all their draft picks were like best player available, or like specifically, this is a position of need we're going to need in the future. So like, there's no pressure on any young players, anything like that. This is literally an entire unit returning and coming back to just build off of what they did last year. And if they build off even any amount like they did last year, good luck scoring on Tampa Bay, because that defense looks nasty, and I expect it to be right in the top 5 again this year. Now, coming in at number 2, and team number 1 had enough losses that I really considered putting these guys at number 1, but I'm going to stick them at number 2 because I don't want to crown them just yet way too early in the season. Washington football team. That front 7 is nasty. All right. On top of that, secondary, I mean, let's just read off some names here. So free agent signing William Jackson helps improve their secondary. On top of that, the D-line, Montez Sweat, Chase Young, Jonathan Allen, Matthew Ioannidis. I mean, there are so many big names and so many great pass rushers on, where do you start with this Washington football defense? They nearly knocked out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers while Taylor Heineke was throwing the football for them on offense during that wild card game just last year. They held the Buccaneers to a ludicrously low number. I mean, Tampa Bay, they were leaps and bounds by the time they got to Super Bowl, the best team in the league. And for Washington to have suffocated them and given Brady as many problems, that was probably the most I saw Tom Brady struggle last year, even through that early part of the year. The way the defense just put the pressure on him. And if they can do that to one of the best offenses in the league, and the team is so young and is only going to get better as they keep adding more to that unit in the years to come. I mean, Washington football team is set up for defensive success. If they can just figure out their quarterback situation over there, that would be one hell of a complete team, and they would be the premier team in the NFC, in my opinion, because the defense is coming on so strong, but it's just that offense that has a handful of question marks. But man, this defense is good. 35 touchdowns allowed, 23 turnovers. They had 47 sacks. Penalties, they're like right in the middle of the road at 85, 11, tied for 11th in the league with a few other teams. But overall, I mean, just a really solid unit. Really excited to see the evolution of this Washington football team going over the next year or two, but I expect some big things from them coming in this year. And especially if even if they can get somewhat good quarterbacking play so the defense doesn't have to be on the field as much, I have no doubt in my mind that Washington's going to be the number 2 team at least here. Then flying in at number 1, I think this is the consensus number 1 defense around the league, and not much of a surprise to anyone who is watching this, I'm sure. We have the LA Rams. They have the 2 big anchors in Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, the respective best at their position. If you talk to just about anybody, they will say that about Aaron Donald, and it may be a little bit more of an argument for Jalen Ramsey with that. But, I mean, you can argue they're the best at what they do. Just over 4,500 yards allowed last season. They only allowed 29 touchdowns. They forced 22 turnovers, 53 sacks. And the biggest thing to point out for these guys, really, in my opinion, is the 78 penalties, which is tied for 4th. So not only are they a fantastic defense, but they're playing within the rules. They're not getting called for stupid things, allowing stupid amounts of chunk yards off like DPIs and things like that. They obviously still 78 penalties, but that's among the lowest in the league. And that's all you can really ask for in this league, is to just try not to commit penalties and shoot yourself in the foot when you're on defense. And I mean, aside from Donald and Ramsey leading the way, the fact that they have Matthew Stafford now playing at quarterback, who is an upgrade over Jared Goff, excuse me, I almost forgot his name there, Jared Goff over in Detroit now. I think that the fact that this defense is going to have even more opportunity to stay off the field and stay fresh while Matthew Stafford's driving down that ludicrous offense that they have put together over there as well. I would be legitimately shocked if the Rams defense was not number one again this year. I just don't. I mean, they lost John Johnson, sure. But outside of that, this defense remains intact. It remains stout, and I'm very excited to see what they do. And that's all I really got to say about the Rams defense, man. Good luck to anybody else playing them. I'm very interested to see how this defense holds up, especially now that they're going to have a revitalized offense on the other side of the football field. But that is it for my top 5. I appreciate you all for watching. Let me know what you all think in the comment section down below. My name is Athan. Next video I catch from you guys will be a little bit more updated. I'll be back home, so we'll have stuff in store. We'll be talking all the preseason games and all the good stuff going on now that the NFL season has, or the NFL time of year has officially graced itself upon us all. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in another video.